Who could forget April 21st, 2016? The day the music died. Speaking specifically on the investigation today, welcome. Going to walk through some very detailed evidence today regarding what was really happening at Paisley Park, the breakdown plan. Haven't you had enough of the shiniest souls just disappearing from the face of the earth, being called a drug addict? Think wisely, because everything you think is true. The investigation at Paisley Park dates back to January 1st, 2011, and goes through 4/21/2016. However, as I've mentioned oftentimes, there are 2 investigations minimum. That is why during this released video from Carver County, car 7322 and car 7320 are seen going out to Paisley Park. When car 7322 arrives, they come into the front entrance and there's a white truck there, 9:48 and 41 seconds. However, when car 7320 arrives, they pull in, see there's no white truck there, and then they turn to the right and go to the back entrance, and there's already an ambulance there. However, 911 was not said to have sent out an ambulance. It was canceled, but that's not my point. They went to that entrance and the front entrance. When you see this part of the 911 report where it says at the bottom, dispatch Kaylee, this is Shirley at Ridgeview, you can cancel anybody going to Audubon, confirm DOA. Okay, thank you. All right, bye. So you'd wonder why the ambulance was there. Just wanted to mention that. Before I share the truth with you, you should check out the lie that Jim Olson and Carver County present on PBS NewsHour. In case you ever mentioned, if you missed it at the time, back in the day, go check it out. What I'm going to just show you a few parts of what he had to say, and then I'm going to show you how it's all a lie, all part of the breakdown plan.
At about 9:43 yesterday morning, we received a medical call at Paisley Park in Chanhassen. Chanhassen Fire, the Carver County Sheriff's Office, and Ridgeview Ambulance all responded to the call. That is our standard protocol, and it's not unusual at all for us to have everybody respond to a medical like that.
The reason he said that's not unusual to have everyone respond to a medical call like that after you just saw for yourself that the ambulance was canceled because someone was confirmed DOA lets you know that he's lying. He stumbles over almost every word that he says, and that is a telltale sign of a liar as well.
Chanhassen Fire, the Carver County Sheriff's Office, and Ridgeview Ambulance all responded to the call. They found an unresponsive male in the elevator. CPR was initially started.
He was able to say that CPR was initially started because Chief Johnson, Fire Chief Johnson, was the first to arrive, and though he did not detect a pulse on Nelson, he believed he was warm to the touch, so then he drug him out of the elevator and initiated CPR. Yet, here the EMTs report obvious signs of widespread rigor mortis, that is, coupled with a flatline reading on their portable heart monitor were enough for both EMTs to quickly agree life-saving measures could be ceased. So though Jim Olson said that CPR was initiated and Chief Johnson said that he initiated it, Andrew, the doctor, the one that they said met them at the door when they got there, said Andrew's decision not to start CPR after observing clear signs of rigor throughout Prince's torso. So when they say that it was initially started, you ask yourself why a very seasoned 30 plus year fire chief would give CPR to a rigged body. It's a lie. Back to the lies.
but was unsuccessful. He was pronounced deceased at 10:07. We have identified him as Prince Rogers Nelson, 57 years old.
Prince Rogers Nelson, 57 years old. Birth certificate says Prince Roger Nelson, 6/7/58, making that person 57 years old. Moline Hospital returned this paperwork. Nelson Prince with an X, age 61, birth date 6/7/54. Moline also returned this paperwork. Prince Nelson, 6/7/59. So though they identified him as Prince Rogers Nelson, what does that mean? Again, there's their story, the truth.
Staff members from Paisley Park had been unable to contact Prince yesterday morning and went to check on him. They found him unresponsive and called 911.
Jim Olson said that they were urgently trying to contact Prince to save his life. However, Andrew Kornfeld, who was with Kirk and Marone, one of the staff members to report to Paisley that morning, had this to say. I don't know the answer to that question because Kirk and the girl, they wanted to give him lots of privacy, right? And I was kind of expecting to be able to land and first thing in the morning go to meet Prince. But they wanted to give him his privacy. So I just went to my hotel and we met together, and they were concerned about him because they hadn't heard from him, and I kind of encouraged them to check on him. Here's another excerpt. Kornfeld stated he arrived in Minnesota and got a hotel room in Chanhassen. Kornfeld stated he met with Johnson and Bakure during the morning hours of 4/21. While he was speaking with Johnson and Bakure, they mentioned it was very normal to not check on Nelson for a while. Kornfeld stated he advised that they should attempt to make contact with Nelson. Kornfeld stated they arrived at Paisley Park at about 9:15. Kornfeld stated he was in another room at the residence while Johnson and Bakure went to go check on Nelson. Kornfeld stated he heard a scream and came into the area of the elevator. He then stated he called 911 and decided not to start CPR as he noted signs of rigor mortis. So as the story goes, Kirk, Marone, and Kornfeld arrive about 9:15 after leisurely having breakfast together, and Kornfeld saying to Kirk and Marone that they probably should go check on Prince. Very different story than the media tells. So we're told that the 911 call comes in at 9:43 a.m. after they find Prince. There's a couple things you should know about where Kirk really was. Here at 7:49 and 7:51 a.m., there are two incoming calls to two incoming calls to the landlines that are in Paisley Park. That's where Kirk said he made two calls, one at 7:49 and one at 7:51. But as Kornfeld testified, they didn't arrive until about 9:15. And before that, they were having breakfast together. And before that, Kirk is said to have picked Kornfeld up at the airport. So why were we not told that somebody was making these phone calls at 7:49 and 7:51? Also, truly important here, you guys, when Schulenberg said that he went into his office at about 8:15 and he texted Kirk to ask him if he was still in town. Kirk responded, "I'm here waiting for him, Prince, to wake up to give him something to take the edge off." So if we believe Dr. Schulenberg, then Kirk was with Prince at 8:15 a.m., giving him something to take the edge off. That would be shortly after placing the calls at 7:49 and 7:51, but that does not coincide with Andrew Kornfeld's story about being picked up at the airport at 6:22, checked into the the Country Inn and Suites at 8:45 after leisurely having breakfast together, then getting to Paisley Park at 9:15. That doesn't work. Here's Andrew's testimony. He took a red-eye flight, landed about 6 a.m. Kirk and Marone set up his hotel arrangements. They checked him into the hotel, didn't go in. They had breakfast together, and that check-in time was 8:45. And according to them, Country Inn and Suites doesn't have video surveillance. Not that it would matter, because we just found out that Kirk was with Prince, or a Prince, at 7:49, 7:51, and 8:15, giving him something to take the edge off. So though there was a 911 call placed at 9:43, Detective Meyer on 4:21 at or about 9 a.m., I received a telephone call from Sergeant Brunig, who said he needed investigation assistance. He said that Prince Rogers Nelson with a D was deceased at 9 a.m., that there were several people at the residence that needed investigating. So you guys, the reason I say residence and Paisley Park is because there are separate investigations because of these dual identities. So these are two descriptions by two officers that describe what they saw when they got on scene. This officer, Brunig, says that he entered the building through the main entrance on the north side, okay, and he continued to an elevator that's to the right just past the lobby. Kittleson says he drove to the northwest gate and entered the main public entrance on the northeast corner of the building. He walked past the reception area and met with Brunig. And remember, Brunig was called at 9 a.m. saying he needed investigative assistance. I saw what appeared to be Prince lying on the floor in front of the elevator on top of a rug. Okay, the infamous rug. The rug. Something really important about the rug, and Detective Johnson alleged first on scene. This detective says, I walked down the hallway from the front door, and to my right I observed a male party down on the floor, directly in front of the elevator. Wrong slide. Now, Chief Johnson was asked if he remembered a rug, and he said he did not recall a rug, and I can't find that right now. But here, this detective says Nelson was lying on the floor in front of the elevator. I could tell Nelson was unresponsive and not responding to any stimulation. I noticed that Nelson's right arm appeared to be stiff as it remained in the same position as he was moved on the floor. So, let me present to you that if his body was being moved on the floor, he would have said being dragged on the carpet, and he wouldn't have noticed a stiff arm on the floor. Eventually, I will find Johnson's statement that he doesn't remember a rug, and this guy saw the arm on the floor, so there was no carpet in this scenario. And as if that's not enough, and you haven't seen the real photos, 2 different outfits, 2 different scenarios, minimum. I guess we'll have to go with this statement. I can't find the one where he said he didn't remember a rug. But here, Chief Johnson said he then drug Nelson out of the elevator and initiated CPR. If you read the book that's out, it says that he grabbed Prince under each of his arms and pulled him out of the elevator and then initiated CPR. So you mean to tell me that they knew that it was a mistake to move a deceased, rigged body, but then yet they went and moved it again to put it on a carpet? Well, that just might be true. Here it is. Hastings arrived just as Chief Johnson easily and smoothly lifted Prince's petite frame from underneath the arms and removed him head first from the elevator car. Nothing about a carpet. What I'm saying isn't such a big deal when you take into consideration that Sheila E. said that the day that she traveled to Paisley Park, the day of Prince's death, and spoke with Kirk, she said that when she arrived, she had heard from someone, she couldn't recall who, that Prince was found in his bedroom and that Kirk had dressed Prince and moved him to the elevator. Sheila said when she asked Kirk if this was true, Kirk laughed and told Sheila no, it was not true. Of course, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. There was much more that came before April 21st. Remember, the breakdown was a plan. Let's backtrack a bit, shall we?
I used to throw the party every New Year's Eve.
Performing at exclusive St. Bart's New Year's Eve bash for Roman Abrahamovich. We're just supposed to believe this is Prince. Big fro, black clothes. Fact is, he always said he didn't do politics. He had no dog in that race, but New Year's Eve party, just like the song says, right?
Waking up in places that you would never believe. Give it back the time. You can keep the memories. You keep breaking me. You keep breaking me down. I don't wanna go.
The breakdown. Let's discuss the breakdown. I've been talking about it for a long time, as you can see. So, as far as the investigation, it's important to know that they were investigating all the way back to 2011. That's because, well, I believe, as we all know, or maybe all of us don't know, Prince was alleged to have had hip surgery in 2010, and that's the same year I died. But here on 1/11/11/11, if you will, that's what they take their investigation back to. But before I get into that, I just wanted to share with you real briefly. Rick Peliquin, he allegedly worked at Paisley Park before, and he said the Prince had this hip replacement surgery at the Mayo Clinic, and the doctor was Dr. Truesdale. There's no other mention of the hip surgery and no proof of it. Obviously it's a medical thing. They could say that it's no big deal, but the only thing that's ever mentioned in it is this part by this guy. It's never verified or proven. But my point is, here in 2010, during the 2010 tour, you can see that the tour dates, July, October, November, pretty busy. So even if Prince would have had hip surgery in 2010 at 57 years old, 51 at the time, how do you go right back to touring in a full-time schedule? Okay, that's my first question. And same thing in 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, you guys, full-time. January, February, March, April, May, full-time touring schedule after having hip surgery, right? I don't think so. That's first. Second, I just want to bring your attention to, if you follow the channel, you know I died on July 20th, 2010. Interesting that here, July 18th and 25th, there were performances in Lisbon and Nice. So there would have been a gap that day that I died, and I met the creator there and showed himself to me as Prince Rogers Nelson and discussed some of this stuff with me. And then even if someone were to go right back to touring and putting on flats and dancing in white fuzzy boots instead of heels, you're just not going to recover from hip surgery that quickly. It isn't going to happen. So I just wanted to take you on a little trip back in time. That even Carver County started their call log back in 2011. And as you can see, there's odd things like someone calling to report Prince's cocaine habits. And remember, they're talking about the other Prince. There's suspicious people taking pictures out front, coming in by spreading the fence apart. This is from the Carver County incident report. So in 2011, you got weird things happening. Again, like I mentioned, someone was thrust back into a full-time touring schedule 2011 through 16. All of these tours here, you guys, Australia, Live Out Loud, Hit and Run, Part 1 and 2, Piano and a Microphone, Welcome to the $1 Million Show. In 2 of 2011, there were concerts held at the Oracle in Oakland, California, and this is where Prince appeared, this Prince with the dark glasses, makes you wonder who it is. Now, all these people saw tweeting out dark glasses of the pop icon holding a cane and smiling from the sidelines. The point is, the pop legend was in Oakland and San Francisco, first in February to perform at a pair of sold-out concerts at the Paramount, Oakland and San Francisco. This is noteworthy, you guys, because Phaedra, Alice Lampkins, Andrew Kornfeld, and Marone can be traced back to the Oakland, Berkeley, San Fran area, especially at that time. Phaedra, she uses the address of 1611 Telegraph Road, Oakland, California, when she first filed the Articles of Incorporation for NPG Publishing, LLC, on 12 of 2015. Here you can see that address, Oakland, California. Interesting, because the infamous Recovery Without Walls, just across the bridge in San Francisco. Down below San Francisco, right here on the map, that's where Andrew Kornfeld was camping at the Palo Alto campground, according to his email, which I also keep. I'm not going to get into that right now, but Andrew, Phaedra, and Recovery Without Walls can be traced back to the Berkeley, San Francisco area, where the infamous concerts in Oakland and San Francisco were performed in February. You get my drift? You guys, when I mentioned the other prints, the clones, the lookalikes, this is Marone Bakir, and this is someone in dark sunglasses. That was during the Oakland concert time. We are also told that the call to Howard Kornfeld to save Prince was last minute, yet Kieran Shaw, former manager, had this to say. She said that Kieran said that Phaedra's sister had suffered from drug addiction and received treatment from Dr. Kornfeld at Recovery Without Walls, and that was where the connection had come from. It wasn't just a last minute action that they did on the 20th. These Oakland County Library keys were photographed at the scene where it says Berkeley, Andrew Kornfeld, one of the Andrews anyway, because everyone has a dual identity, went to Berkeley and graduated from Berkeley. Also, when Schulenberg was testifying about getting a phone call on 4/20/2016 from Phaedra, he said that the area code was San Jose, which is also out there in California. Also, Kirk testified to the fact that Phaedra, Prince's manager, who had taken another job in California the year prior, had not been replaced. So she had come back to Paisley Park after filing the fake Articles of Incorporation. The timeline steps off a couple times, but it comes right back on. I'm just trying to introduce the characters as they come on board. So I want to take you back here to 2011. There was a business manager prior to Phaedra. His name was Theo London. They called him Theo McConeyhead London. You guys might know him by that name if you follow the investigation. He started, I think, 2011, 2012, and he resigned in the winter of 2014, but stayed on until February of 2015. He had a lot of information to share, and his full video is linked. It's attached here. He is the one that tells us that that Phaedra said, because she came from Silicon Valley, where computers rule the world, that she could do anything she wanted with Prince's computer and could get anything out of Prince's computer, and she's heard telling people, that's okay, I'll just get in there and fix it, etc. Back in 2004, Phaedra was accused of fraud and embezzlement by a former employee in Silicon Valley Union. She was accused of embezzlement and illegal politicking. So it's interesting, they write, that Prince would have let her in to the shindig over there at the White House, or for her to have signing authority, because if she was accused of illegal politicking, it doesn't matter. You don't get signing authority to sign someone else's name. So that's what these people who were tweeting were writing about, and I just kind of wanted to let you know about her history. During this video that I put the link on here, you guys, Theo writes that he was also on the plane and that he saw Prince with his own eyes. It's never said that there was anybody on the plane besides Kirk, Marone, and Prince. However, Theo is one of the people who said he was on. So check that out at 23:15. At 42:58, he shares that he had an impossible time believing that Andrew Kornfeld did not see Prince the night before on April 20th. He said that everyone was well aware that Prince was a night owl, and sometimes he would sleep 3 to 4 hours and sometimes not going to bed at all. At 56:29 during this interview, Theo and Detective Wagner are discussing fentanyl and where he got it. Wagner says, yep, it's so strong it doesn't take much at all. This lets us to know that the fentanyl was not in pill form as disguised by the media. Theo also confirms that Phaedra did set up the NPG Publishing with the help of Van Jones and Diana Frappier and Rhonda Trotter, the intellectual property attorneys. Theo goes on to tell us about Phaedra's suspicious behavior, and when he was at Paisley, that they were talking about cleaning something on the rug, that Kirk was concerned with the entry hallway past the staircase that goes up the stairs prior to the elevator, not outside of, not in, but prior to the elevator. Theo said he heard Phaedra talking about locking down Paisley the following day, and they would be going through and cleaning up rooms. Theo said Phaedra asked Kirk who was the last one on the computer and mentioned that she would go through Prince's computer and take care of it. Theo also mentioned that the password for the computer was Peter Bravestrong. And they also thought it was strange that Phaedra was talking about going to the bank to pay bills the next day, because there were often times that she was asked to pay people and did not. Very shady character, Phaedra Ellis Lampkins. Now, because we are talking about the breakdown, she is one of the biggest characters, yet she's never mentioned in the investigation and she's never interviewed. You can make up your own judgments as to why that is when we're done here. During the same interview, Theo states that in 2011, he was asked to get the girls and two of the houses that not him, but alleged Prince. They call him Prince or him. They never say Prince Rogers Nelson. It's always he or him. But he states that he was asked to take care of the girls and get the houses up and running. And I can only assume that those are the houses that they used during the breakdown. The one Kirk uses on Red Fox Circle, and the one where his nephew, Sean Powell's prescription medications were found at. There's those houses on Galpin. There's a lot of houses in real estate that they had to do away with after this. But again, Theo dates back to 2011. Crystal Zahetner, she was a chef and I don't know, another personal assistant. She dates back to 2011, 2012. She's real shady too, you guys. When she's interviewed, she pretends she doesn't know anything. She's making movies now. She's kind of hoity-toity and she's lying. But Mariah Brown, she's one of the lookalikes for Prince. She goes back to 2012. Little bit of makeup and hair, and you got yourself some lookalikes. So when I mention Marone Bakir, the lookalike, you'll know it's not so far off. Here's one that isn't talked about very often. This is Michaela Johnson, Kirk Johnson's daughter. She was trying out for the Timberwolves cheerleading, wearing a tag that said 314. She's often used as a lookalike as well. Here she is seeing Lulu with her papa. Oh, look, Lulu. This is Julie Ramadan, the lookalike. She dates back to 2011, 2012 as well. She was an assistant to Prince. I showed you her picture before, you guys. She's credited. What's really important about her is all throughout this investigation, they referred to this email that is Prince's, but they say it was set up by her in 2012, J.R. Ramadan. Yet Chris Gaither tells us that Prince fired her and stopped using that email. But the media investigation says that Prince is still using that email, and everything that they say is Prince's, leading us to believe that it's Prince Rogers Nelson is BS as well. Natalia Phillips, the other lookalike, the singer-songwriter that 70% of the phone calls went to from March of 2016 to April of 2016. And there's her performing with pretty much the same face, but with a wig on. See the face? See the face? Those could be some of the girls that Theo was making reference to when he was asked to get the girls ready. Now, 2012, you guys, really heavy touring. It's really important that you know that in 2012, the Welcome to Chicago shows were being done. And Deborah Johnson, the former business manager, all of the testimony that I've shared she lets us know that Phaedra Van Jones, Diane Frappier, Ronda Estrada, they were told that the tax-free charity status was expired and they didn't care. And she goes on to explain that in this link right here. So please check it out. I don't want to play them all during this. Like I said, I'll post this link in the comment section. In 2012, along with all the heavy touring, there were suspicious vehicles and fire alarms, more fire alarms and more fire alarms. And now Chris Gaither, bodyguard, he dates back to 2012. He tells us that he was Prince's only bodyguard, which is so strange because Chris Wagner's always running around trying to find out about Julius and Renville Wellington and all these mysterious bodyguards. Anyway, Chris Gaither states here in this link that he feels there were forces at work that wanted him at home so that normal protocol could be skipped. Check it out.
Your mother was trying to make sure I was home for this kind of stuff to happen. But it's like when y'all came out with or whoever came out with the story and they were saying the bodyguard that was saying that he disappeared and all of that, which really didn't make any sense because that's against, like, everything that happened that night is against how we're supposed to operate. So I kind of felt like someone was trying to make sure I was home.
So you guys heard him say, Chris Gaither, the full-time bodyguard, said that he felt like somebody wanted to make sure he was at home for this kind of stuff to happen, the stuff that happened on 4/20 and 4/21. That's what he was talking about. Here he goes on to state that only certain individuals could have had their way through Paisley Park without anyone suspecting. He states that switching out all the medication would be next to impossible. Someone had to have procured the fentanyl. You guys, the media story tells us that Prince died from taking fentanyl-laced hydrocodone and then sells that Percocet was procured on the 14th. It's all just a big, horrible, horrible joke to make you look for the truth. But let's check out what he had to say about getting the fentanyl.
It is to me what it seems like to me is, because one, I know a pharmacy isn't going to mess up and give, fentanyl, because that's not just nothing that they are able to just disperse like that. You actually got to have the person who's in charge there sign off on it because of the type of medication it is, and then they have to account for every pill, and then they have to do all of that. So for him to magically just pop up with it and all of that, to me, that's a big red flag. Like, that means somebody had to come in there, switch out his medication, and all that. Well, who could do that? Well, who could get into the premises and have their way through here without nobody really suspecting it? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and yeah, okay, it was a party.
He said, yeah, okay, it was a party. Now, did any one of you know that there was a party on 4/20? He just said who could make their way through Paisley without anybody knowing. And then he said, yeah, it was a party. But that's not how stuff is done around Paisley. He said you would have to go in and switch out all of his medication. He knows that's not how the pharmacy does it. And he talked about one of these princes as if they had a ton of medication, which is, I believe, in reference to the one prince spelled with an X that is 61 years old that has a brain injury. I have these pieces of information from my life after life that I'm not talking about right now, but that's what I feel like they were talking about, because I know that the overdose of fentanyl was a purposeful overdose of fentanyl. It wasn't what the media sold. They were investigating a suicide. And even still, Chris Gaither goes on to state that Prince picked up medication on his bicycle. So you know the story is twisted.
To me, it's like, okay, this kind of doesn't add up, but, I know he went and picked up a prescription from Walgreens, that was reported, so it's like, okay, well, he went to go pick up a prescription on his bicycle. Which, if he wasn't doing that great, how could he ride his bicycle?
Those doing the using and abusing, they didn't think they were going to get caught. They thought their story would be undiscoverable, that no one could untangle it. They didn't count on the power of love and wisdom never forgotten. This breakdown was a plan devised to take advantage of the multiple identities Prince Rogers Nelson used. When he stopped publishing under the name Prince, he took on that love symbol for a name. I believe the identity change left a gap for these intellectual property attorneys to swoop in with their expertise and file the NPG articles of incorporation and all the Recovery Without Walls LLC, People's Organic LLC, Professionals Plus LLC. Throw in Van Jones, former CNN commentator, buddy to the Obama administration, and starting to look like standing room only at the other White House.